Howdy, this is the award-winning car talk show in real time, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars down there, the Fix-It Man, and Mr. King Conrad DeLong right here. I am Don Armstrong. We're so glad that you could join us today. This is our EV show. We're doing all things electrical vehicles.
In EVOs.
Yeah, something like that.
I stole that from somebody on Facebook.
Anyway,
Yeah.
our first half-hour guest, great guy, Buzz Smith.
That's a killer name.
It is a killer name.
For the evangelist.
Yes, the evangelist up in Fort Worth. And we were talking about giving an overview of what is actually all about the EV world that we're all going to be actually shoved into, kicking and screaming, some of us, all the way into it. Right now, we've got a guest that's joining us via Zoom, and his name is Steve Klun. Steve, how are you? Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good. How are you doing? I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's so good to see you guys. Steve and his lovely wife own the Green Shed. It's a EV conversion place down there in Fort Pierce, Florida. Looks like it's a beautiful day down there in Florida.
Well, it is, but we're up in Crystal River.
Oh, Crystal River.
We moved 6 years ago.
Oh, you did? Well, hey, listen, nobody ever said that I was on top of things, you know? Crystal River. I don't know where I got Fort Pierce, but anyway, you know, some of us, at least in my age group, we're a little bit on the slow on the uptake. So at any rate, Steve, it's all beside the point anyway, because Steve does EV conversions. And maybe you could explain to folks exactly what is an EV conversion. I assume that it is a originally gasoline-powered vehicle that you have converted to an electric vehicle. Am I right?
That's correct. And I started back in the 90s, and when we had our first Gulf War. And there had actually been a lot of electric conversions going on before that time. There's a real long history just going back further and further. But we had a bunch of things that happened back in the 90s that kind of propelled us forward. We had the transistorized controllers, which before that, it was basically big coils of wire and contactors to control the speed, kind of like old-time trains. So we had that improvement come along, and then we also had the AGM batteries, the yellow tops and the blue tops, which I know seems like ancient history to you, but for us back then that was a major leap, and all of a sudden we went from what was basically Volkswagen performance to actually V8 performance, and electric cars all of a sudden were not just slow golf buggies.
Do you have a certain model, a make, a year model that you're actually doing more conversions on than anything else?
Probably the S10 and the Ford Ranger. I think those two, they were very popular back then because of the room they had for batteries. And I've got a Mazda over here with the lid open now. This was one I did back in the 90s. And it originally had the lead acid batteries. It had 24 was a popular number. Now I've patterned this one a little bit after my wife's. This actually has one of the original 9-inch advanced DC motors back from the 90s. And as you see, we got our air conditioning. And if you had power steering, you'd have that belted on there too. I've got these for decoration to make it look like a V8 engine.
Well, you know, that's what I was going to say. That's a pretty snappy looking look there you got underneath the hood. I love it. And clearly you don't have to have it to look like that, but you made it to look like that because you wanted kind of that throwback. I also noticed that the pickup truck, you've made it into a dump truck.
Yeah, well, that's back in the time, you know, when we had the lead acid batteries, you'd have to be woodering your batteries and everything. And everybody pretty much did that. That was the you know, to get to your batteries to water them.
So who's drivetrain?
We had batteries all the way, lead acid golf cart batteries all the way to the back, all in here. And now with the lithium, we got twice the range and half the space.
So
the lithium battery's been a big thing.
Whose powertrain or drive unit do you use in most cases?
Well, if back back then in the 90s, this guy came out with what they call the Zilla controller. And back then, that was very popular. That was when he came. Before that, we basically had the Volkswagen Performance, and then he came along with this 300 volt, 2000 amp controller, which took us from like 50 kilowatts to 600 kilowatts. So that one's still being made, although everything is kind of gone along. You can still get a rotary phone if you look for one,
But who wants one?
now the AC stuff is kind of taken over and become more popular.
Do you
I also have over here to give you an example of another company that came along at that same time around 2000. That was Evenetics, and they built this controller for also. These are series DC motor controllers, though, and the series DC motor is a very torquey setup, lots of torque, but and a simple motor with brushes, though.
Steve, how long does it take you to do a conversion? If I brought you an S10 Blazer or an S10 pickup truck, how long would it take you to make the conversion from gasoline to electric and me drive it home?
Usually about 200 hours. There's a lot of little features. It's like the air conditioning. We got to set all that up, and the air conditioning can take some time. And if you want heat, that's another thing we got to come up with. So there's the bare bones, just go down the road, or you want lots of fancy bells and whistles.
Well, if I just want bare bones, I'll just buy me a golf cart. But I want a car. I want you to do the whole conversion. So
yeah, then about 200 hours.
Now, do you do all the work yourself, Steve?
Yep. We got one guy that helps us, and we also our biggest program that's been the most successful is what we call the assisted program, and that's where you come with the car and you and I do it together.
Oh my! So in other words,
like most shops where they say if you watch, it costs twice as much. Here, we give you a break if you participate.
So if
that's good because I get to know you. We have fun together. I've gotten to meet a whole bunch of different people and actually work with them. Because, when you work with somebody, you get to know them. And it's the assisted conversion program has been to me one of my favorite programs.
Well, plus it gives you a chance to share your knowledge and your passion for building EVs.
Well, now here's what I've got in mind. So you've got this millennial that's still living in the damn basement, and you've got an actual need to get out and get yourself an EV. Send the millennial in the basement down with you. You can babysit him and give him a hobby or give him a career. Make him work.
I actually have taught quite a few people how to do some welding, and depending on how much of a hurry you are, if you're not in a hurry and you want to learn, we can take some time. That's been one of my I've worked with father and sons, and that's been a really good program with a father and son come and do the because I have all the equipment here, but they get to work together on the project, and what a vacation.
So Steve,
don't forget our filmer right here, who was with us many years ago, and he's back to do one with us.
Oh, wow.
Very nice. And I assume that's
he's filming for us.
That must be your wife that's talking right there. But
she doesn't. Come on camera. Say hi.
She's back over there. So I have to ask you: do you make us sleep out in the pup tent out back for the overnight stays? Or how does that work?
Well, he's got his camper here. And we had two ladies doing a VW bus. What year was that? 1970.
And they camped out.
So
that'd be
one before that had a motel. He got a motel instead.
Yeah, the VW bus would probably be a great conversion, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, that what we're going more toward is the old classic cars that people don't want to get rid of.
I see the Mini behind
like
you.
Like my wife's 57 over here.
Her 57.
We'll take a quick shot at this. This is where I got the idea for the batteries to look like a carburetor.
So what do you hey Steve?
You'll see, and this also features that we have a big vehicle, and we can do it almost any size. So I copied hers is what happened. This was her idea, and I told her that's crazy, and she said no, it'll look good, and we did it, and it turned out pretty nice.
So, Steve,
so nice I copied.
Steve, do the neighbors have any complaints or problems with your workspace over there?
No, actually, my neighbor, he's a car mechanic.
Oh,
So he and I get along real good.
perfect.
Although he's a gas car mechanic, so he scratches his head about all this stuff.
It's not like the Hatfields and McCoys or anything, is it?
Yeah, but
no, we share tools. We get along real good, but he still isn't convinced. He likes his gas stuff because he's lived with that.
But the neighbors aren't going to complain about the noise. It's not like you're starting a nitro funny car every afternoon in the middle of
No, he makes more noise than me, so we're all right.
So, Steve, I have to ask, how much does it cost in a typical conversion? Let's just say that I've got a 1995 Volkswagen Beetle that I want to convert to an EV. How much would something like that, how much would you charge me to do something like that?
Well, the basic motor, controller, all those parts are about $6,000, but the expense comes in the batteries. And we're using salvage Leaf batteries, Tesla batteries, and Chevy Volt batteries.
Yeah, and so then of course we got to pay you to do it.
Yeah, and then there's that, which that's the beauty of our assisted program is that if you're really handy and everything, and you only need me to do a few things, then you can do all the work you can do, and I'll just step in on the stuff you don't need. Or if I'm teaching you how to weld and read a meter and which end of the soldering iron to hold, then it's going to take longer. But either way.
Well, you learn quickly which end of the soldering iron.
Come in and do the whole car with only 10 billable hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I guess you don't have people say, here, hold this into the wire, and then here, hold this into the wire either, do you?
That's what we call a short circus.
Short circus.
The circus is very quick.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, they've gotten rid of the electric chairs, but I guess in today's EV world, you really don't need those anymore.
Well, you still have to follow a certain safety protocol. As you're
we don't worry about that.
You learn quick.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Steve, how do we get a hold of you? GreenShed EV?
GreenShedConversions.com.
GreenShedConversions.com. Well, I'll tell you what, it'd be worth a trip just to come down there and hang out with you for a day or two and maybe give you a hand on one of your projects. That'd be fun.
That'd be great. Yep, that's the way to learn.
Yeah, we're gonna send Dom that way for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly, just to get rid of me.
Hey, Steve, is that a Jeep back there that you're working on?
Yeah, that's our Jeep, and that's for a customer there, and that's going to be strictly off road. The other thing I didn't get to say anything about yet is that for the last year I've been using the truck, all the vehicles we have, as the batteries to store the solar power and then feed that back to the house during the night. So this is the next step with our electric cars. This is what I believe is going to put us over the edge, is when your electric car is not only your vehicle, but it's also your storage unit for your solar power. So these electric cars are actually making money every day, just sitting here storing and then during the evening pumping the electricity back, which, everybody talks about solar. The problem is, what do we do with, when the sun isn't out? Well, if you've got a couple of cars, I always have one car plugged into the solar panels and into the grid tie inverter in the house. So we're always storing and supplying electricity. And I think that's going to be a big step. The car companies haven't quite got with it yet, but they're talking about it.
Well, I have to tell you, Steve, and I do mean this with all due respect, and this is strictly a compliment, but you, sir, are an electric freak and a geek, and we love you for that. And listen, we can all appreciate you, sir. Is that an electric lawnmower?
This is what I used about 15 years ago when I had a lawn business. So yeah, that was my electric lawnmower, and I would charge this between each yard, and it would charge in about 7 minutes by plugging it into my electric truck.
Steve, I got a new way for you to make some money. and then you could give tours down there when you decide to retire. People would be lined up for about a mile to get in to see this menagerie that you've got down there.
Well, I've been trying to promote that with the turnpike coming through here. They want to build their road through, and I said, let me keep this, and we'll make an electric car museum and a charging station for people to stop on their way.
There you go.
Hey, and if for no other reason, we know that the electric company hates you, but we love you.
No, they're starting to see the light.
Are they?
They, this being able to get electricity when they need it. They got their peak times and then their times when they've got extra. They actually would be very happy with people using more electricity at night and less during the day.
And something tells me, Steve, that you're being one of those kind of guys that would actually feed the grid as opposed to supply from the grid.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea. A little mini power company.
That's it. Steve's Green Shed Power Company. Steve, it's a great pleasure to talk to you. You're a great guy. We love you. Thank you so much for giving us a tour today.
Yes.
And let's stay in touch, because I'll tell you what, you are the man of the hour.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for doing what you're doing. You guys are getting the word out. A lot of people are watching and thinking, and, little steps. Little steps make the journey.
Steve Klein, he's with Green Shed EV. We thank you again very much for joining us today. And Wheel Time continues after a quick break with Conrad's Car Clinic.
Dude, you may want to slow down. There's a cop car up there. Hey, man, there's another cop. I'd think about putting your seatbelt on if I were you. And if you could sober up in less than 5 seconds, that'd be cool, too.
As America gets back on the road, a lot of things have changed, but not the need for drivers to be safe. Cops are enforcing traffic safety laws in our community to save lives. Paid for by NHTSA.
NASCAR Short Track Racing is back Saturday night, August 1st. Advance Auto Parts and CarQuest present Hot Summer Nights at Houston Motorsports Park. This Saturday night starting at 6. Get out of the house. We've got social distancing and sanitizer. Wear your mask. Get a seat. With dollar hot dogs and dollar beers, how can you go wrong? Get the kids off their cell phones and bring them to watch local auto racing at its best. Advance tickets online at NASCARHouston.com. Saturday, August 1st at 6 p.m. Houston Motorsports Park. NASCARHouston.com.
I don't know about you, but I certainly am entertaining myself today.
but we're turning the corner with you. It's turning you on.
No, it's our guests.
You're becoming an evangelist yourself.
I am not.
Yes,
I
you
am
are.
not. But I do. My daughter will readily admit and raise her hand that she is a geek. I mean, astrophysicist that sends things into space.
But the vehicles she's sending into space, they shoot them up, but they run with electricity once they get up there.
And here we go, and we've got all of our geek guests.
He could be mowing the yard on Mars with his electric lawnmower. Let's get a hold of NASA and see if we can't get him to send his lawnmower.
Speaking of things like that, it's time now for Conrad's Car Clinic, our weekly delve into the world of vehicles, gasoline and electric. What's today's surprise?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about hybrid car maintenance, and is it higher or is it lower? Now, remember, a hybrid car is a gasoline-powered, electric-powered vehicle. It's kind of a dual-powered vehicle. So you still have a gasoline motor that requires all of the maintenance of a gasoline motor, and then it also has an electric propulsion unit to it that pushes the vehicle up and down the road. So you've got to break both of those components out separately to look at what the maintenance needs are. So on the gasoline and part of it, and you can see this here is the Pacifica hybrid, you still have all of the oil change requirements and stuff of the gasoline motor. And then on the hybrid side of things, one of the benefits of the hybrid car is and you've heard all of the EV folks on here talk about the battery packs, and now as the technology advances on the battery pack. In this picture here, you can actually see what they call the suitcase. that encompasses all of the high voltage batteries. Now, you actually have to be quite careful of that because that's got enough voltage to lay you out if you're not real careful. And if you go into any of the dealerships when they're working on one of these, they actually put these little safety tapes around so you can't wander into the area. But those suitcases that you see here, that is the enclosure that holds on to all of the batteries. There's actually a cooling system involved in that as well, trying to keep those batteries from getting hot. So that cooling system requires its own maintenance separate from the cooling system to the engine. And one of the things about the cooling system maintenance on these high voltage battery suitcases is you have to use a very specific coolant in there that's non-conductive, that's not going to transmit electricity within the coolant, because then it can get back into the vehicle and cause problems because you're dealing with such high voltage. This picture here that you can look at, that is inside the suitcase what the battery pack looks like. And you can see all those little battery cells that are within the battery pack. Now, in most cases, if the battery pack goes bad, everybody's going to want to sell you the suitcase to replace the whole thing, and that can be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000.
Oh my gosh!
Depending on the vehicle. But there's companies out there right now, and I'm sure both of our previous guests know who they are, that will service the individual battery pack within that, the individual cell within that suitcase, so they can go in and separate them all out and test them individually and just replace the bad one as opposed to replacing the whole cell itself. And it's much less expensive than replacing the whole cell itself. Pretty cool. And as that technology advances, I believe the cost of all of this is going to come down. One of the other neat things about a hybrid is the brake system on it. Brake systems are going to last longer on a hybrid because part of how the system works is when you apply the brakes on a hybrid vehicle or on a full EV, they use the ability to stop the vehicle, the inertia and that force that happens in a reverse motion to charge the battery. It's called regenerative braking, as opposed to degenerative braking, which you know all about. But that regenerative braking means that they're using the electric motors to slow the vehicle down that also put a charge into the battery, so your brakes last a whole lot longer on a hybrid and a full EV than not.
My personality apparently precedes me.
But EVs aren't that much more expensive, and I don't really think they are any more expensive, or EVs are less expensive than a hybrid car, and a hybrid car maintenance really isn't that much different than a gasoline-powered car.
But at least you don't have the range anxiety that I have with a pure EV, with a hybrid.
Well, and to that point, as battery technology advances and as these power pack technologies advances, you know, you're going to see higher and higher range on these electric vehicles. They're talking about some vehicles that are soon to be released that are going to have up to 400-mile range. Mercedes is talking about a single charge range of 400 miles on one of the vehicles they're about to release.
Did you tap him on the shoulder? What are you doing over there?
I'm looking for our next guest who hasn't popped in on Zoom yet, and I'm trying to get a hold of him out in California.
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Because it was like one of those students that you've got in class that's, you know, looking around the room and counting the number of actual blinds on the.
That was me.
I'm checking my text messages.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have text messages.
Out on Facebook.
We would usually just send paper notes back then. You know, fold them up like a triangle and throw them across the room.
Or kick them out like a football.
Hey, if you don't have ADD, and if you're a member of a car club, we'd like to put your group in our car club spotlight. All you got to do is shoot us an email with the contact information to info@inwheeltime.com. We got more of our show right after this quick break.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands.
Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show. It's a rainy Saturday here in Houston. I've reached out to Gina Child-Knowles with Houston Motorsports Park to find out if the racing is still on tonight.
What the status is.
Yeah, and she hasn't emailed me or texted me back yet. So as soon as I know, I'll let you know. But last time I looked at the radar, it wasn't all that.
Well, back in the vein of all of the EV stuff we're talking about, CJ Spencer, one of our followers on Facebook, says that the electric Volkswagen IDR Racer set a new overall record at Pikes Peak International Hill Climb of 8 minutes 13 seconds, and that beat the record set by the Peugeot rally car from 2013. So that was a couple of years ago. So now the overall record for Pikes Peak is held by an electric vehicle.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of EVs, there's EV news this week. So General Motors and EVgo have partnered to triple the size of EVgo's U.S. fast charging network in the next 5 years, aiming to solve one of the major roadblocks to electric vehicle adoption. That major roadblock is my range anxiety.
And
That's
the
at least one
availability of charging as you cross the country.
GM and EVgo will add more than 2,700 fast chargers to cities and suburbs starting next year. The expansion will target about 40 metro areas and will make EV charging more accessible and convenient, according to GM. The broader network will increase charging access for drivers who live in multi-unit homes, rent their homes and can't install in chargers, or lack access to workplace charging. GM and EVgo said in a joint statement Friday the companies declined to provide financial details of the partnership. Customers will gain access to the EVgo charging stations at high-traffic locations such as grocery stores, retail outlets, and entertainment centers. Most stations will be able to charge at least 4 vehicles at once. Charge times vary based on battery condition, output of charger, vehicle settings, and outside temperature. That's one thing that I didn't bring into it. But in many cases, customers will be able to charge their vehicles in 15 to 30 minutes, the company said. Advocates have touted the convenience of owning an EV by reminding consumers they can plug in at home rather than filling up at a gas station. But that's only true for consumers who have a single-family home that can accommodate a charging station.
And if we go back to what Buzz had talked about earlier, that 30-minute charge is going to be a 440 system, and I think Buzz said right now they're talking about $13,000 to $14,000 per unit. I'm sure as they do it in mass, they're going to drive that price down. But you got to look at this investment by General Motors; it's got to be in the billions of dollars.
Yeah.
When you look at 2,000 charging stations,
2,700, but it's in a partnership with EVgo, so they already know how to get the power to, say, the Whole Foods store.
Right.
They got that whole infrastructure thing going within the company, and GM's just tagging along.
And there's got to be some relationship with the electric company as well, because the electric company is going to have to bring 440 to the location.
Yeah.
You know, you got to remember, here at your house, they bring 220 in. They don't bring 440 in and phase down to 220.
Yeah.
They bring 220 in. So
Yeah.
you're going to be talking about locations that are going to have to bring 440 or 880 in and phase down to 440.
That wasn't me, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought it was something you ate.
No, sir, that was not me. Okay, that's it for this hour of In Wheel Time. We've got more of our show coming up right after this.